The Four Horsemen have invited the building community to join them in the build of a Hot Wheels dairy delivery with a military theme. The one I have there is a little bit abused, but that's where I'm going to start. I decided to do a build honoring the United States Air Force Air Demonstration Squadron, the Thunderbirds. I've seen the Thunderbirds perform several times, the first when I was a little kid, around 1969, 1970, when they were flying the F-4 Phantom that you see there. I've seen them in the subsequent T-38 and F-16s, but I can still remember the power of the Phantom, and it was best captured by veteran pilot Dick Anderegg when he was quoted as saying, "The Phantom was proof that if you put enough thrust behind a brick, you can make it fly." I used these photos of the crew support cart as the basis for the decals I wanted to use on this build. The SC, which I believe stands for support crew, and the circle of stars, much like the numbers on the planes. The website address, which interestingly is no longer in use by the Thunderbirds, but now it leads to a challenge coin dealer. The names of the tech sergeant and master sergeant are actual crew members. I took those off those photos you saw a few seconds ago as well. And I wanted to capture the clean white look of the Thunderbirds. I didn't want to put too much color on there, but yet I definitely wanted to get the red, white, and blue on there. I mean, it's the jets are very memorable when you see them. And they all have a somewhat consistent look in spite of the drastic differences in the aircraft themselves. So that was the goal. And I'm trying to convert that into a boxy dairy delivery. This thing had some rough casting lines on the hood. But got it cleaned up, hit it with duplicolor white lacquer that you see there. And then I came up with these decals. I decided to put the red, white, and blue stripe on the top of it. And again, that's just one big decal. And, I use microset and microsol, and God bless microsol. That stuff, it's hard to do. If you've never used it, you need to get some. And you need to use it. Because you have to be careful, because it does soften the decal. But man, it lets that thing suck into the shape of the casting. And like on here, around that front edge, I was having a bit of a rough time because of just the curve. But man, it worked out great. That decal softened up wonderfully. And then everything else, I did use microsalt on the other decals as well. But it didn't make as much of a difference because most of those were in flat spots or relatively flat. Some of the stars fell on body lines, but not too bad. I really was shooting for that clean look of the Thunderbirds, like I mentioned before. And I'm sorry about my head in the bottom corner of the picture there. Yeah, that's my noggin making its appearance. There were some areas that I used a silver Sharpie on, such as the brake light area there. And then I went over it with the Tamiya Clear Red. Love this. This basically, it's contrast paint. It's Citadel contrast black Templar. In a weird way, it's like a mix between Nuln Oil and just the regular paint. I did do a wheel swap, went with the Scuderia. Had a hard time saying that. 73 heavy speed wheels. I went with a large around all four, as opposed, it comes with smalls for the front and large for the back. I went with larges all the way around. It fits the dairy delivery better. These things look like beadlock wheels. And so, I didn't want a Krager look to it. That's not what a military aircraft would have. So as flashy as the Thunderbirds may be, there's also a function to everything. And so I thought this kind of captured that with these wheels. Just use straight pins for the axles. I did not try and use those Scuderia axles they give you. And then just crimp the ends with the fence pliers there. I did decide to drill out the exhaust. Those don't stick out very far, fortunately. You know, they still have a conservative look to them. I did end up going over those with chrome. Once I drilled these out, I hit this base with flat black, as you see there. I wanted to drill those out first, and then I hit it with the flat black so I wouldn't have to worry about putting black in the exhaust later. I do end up adding some details to the bottom of this after I have the wheels in place. And I was happy. I really like how the wheels end up looking on this. So at this point, I'm going over the taillights that stick out through holes in the back of the casting. They actually lock the back half of the casting in place because there's only a screw in the front. And then I realized, why am I being so neat around the taillights? I went completely around them because they stick out through the holes. And so I wanted it to have a good look, and by not trying to over finesse those taillights, I let the shape of the holes in the back of the casting create that separation for me. And I did go over the exhaust with a Molotow pin, so those are chromed. But there you kind of saw how I did the silver on the taillight section. And you know, it's a Sharpie silver pin on the base, and then around those taillights, I go over those again completely with the Tamiya red clear, and just let the openings again, as you'll see in the end result, make the outline for me. Didn't do a lot of detailing on the base, just a little. The glass was in pretty good shape for as abused as that poor casting looked. The casting looked like the top had almost been burned in a way. It's an odd look to it. I don't know if a kid took a magnifying glass to it or what. Once I had this cleaned up, much to the shock of some of the viewers out there, and to the disappointment of some, I didn't use Gauzy. I used Pledge. If you're wondering why, the jar of Gauzy wasn't deep enough to dunk this big old glass into. Pledge, on the other hand, I have in this jar. I always have it handy for a variety of reasons. As little as I use it, really, I keep it handy for just this kind of thing. You know, that's a huge chunk of glass. And having it in this mason jar, you know, I was able to dunk the whole thing in there and get that gloss coat on it. You know, it's not all that different than Gauzy. It's just not as thick, is basically it. I personally prefer Gauzy. I prefer that heavier, shinier coat on it, but, you know, to each his own. It turned out fine. So there you see basically where we end up. So I'll drop the glass in here, and then I'll drop the interior, and then you'll see how those taillights lock that back section in. I'd like to thank the Four Horsemen at this time for hosting this event. I've always been fascinated by the Thunderbirds and have loved seeing them perform. And I knew exactly what I was going to do when I heard that there was a military theme for this build. Wasn't sure how I was going to get it to work on a dairy delivery, but I'm pretty happy with the results. I think it could pass easily for a Thunderbird support crew vehicle. And it was fun actually putting actual crew members' names on each door. I didn't do any detailing to the interior because I thought that would the interior wasn't right for this type of vehicle. I didn't want to put through a bunch of changes. And so I just, hit it with the flat black and made it in effect disappear. So there you see the end result. And you see how the exhaust doesn't really stick out that much, but I thought drawing it out and then chroming it kind of gave it a good look. And the wheels seem to fit well, the look of the wheels. So here's some glamour shots. Please check out the Four Horsemen channel, where I'm sure they'll have a recap of this build and all the other people participating. Check out all the other builders. I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody does. So thanks everybody for watching these videos. They're a kick in the pants to do. And it was fun paying tribute to the Thunderbirds. So everybody stay safe and healthy out there. Thanks also to my Patreon members for all of their support. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.